So before we even start this video, I'm going to say I had a lot of people ask me what my favorite book was of 2024, and I'm not going to tell you. Not yet, at least, because I have a whole video planned for my end of the year wrap up, and we'll get into those kinds of things because look, here's the thing. If you know me, you probably already know maybe the top two contenders. I don't know yet. There's two series that I have fallen in love with this year that are very tied. They're very tied. So, I don't even know. But anyways, all that to say, we're doing an end of the year tag / get to know me, bookish / personal stuff. Yeah, I had a couple of friends, more than a couple of friends. I had some people ask me questions over on Instagram, and I'm going to answer some of them, so let's do this. I have a couple questions here on my handy dandy phone, so if you see me looking down, not being rude, this is just where it's at. We're going to kick it off with, this question is, authors you discovered this year and now need to read everything they've written. That one's super easy. Emily Henry. I don't know why it took me so long to read Emily Henry's stuff, because I read her entire, once again, what is it called? It's not called a discography. I read her entire catalog, essentially, this year. So I'm super excited for her book next year. Emily Henry is definitely one person that I'm like, okay, anything she's going to put out is going to hit. Everything I read of her this year was 4 stars or up. And then, of course, Jessa Hastings. Why it took me, once again, so long to read the Magnolia Park series, I don't know. I feel like the Magnolia Park series, people have in their mind that it's this, like, cheating thing, and some people will just not read it because cheating is involved in the book. But when you finally read it, you realize how much deeper it goes, and people compare it to Gossip Girl, and it is very Gossip Girl vibes, but once again, it's so much deeper than that. Like, I could go on for hours and hours and hours talking about Magnolia Parks, but Jessa Hastings just has a way of writing that's so poetic. Like, you can't even, what was the quote? Hold on. So in this quote is coming from Jessa Hastings' most recent book. It was released this year. Gut-wrenching, but just the way she describes stuff, listen. He laughs, and for some reason, it sounds like I'm ringing the doorbell of the home I grew up in. Who comes up with these things? Jessa Hastings does. I do have Never. I think it's just Never by Jessa Hastings left to read. I do have that book, so I'm hoping to read it in 2024. So, yeah, that is Jessa Hastings and Emily Henry, queens. And please read the Magnolia Parks series. Yes, they are toxic. Yes, sometimes you want to reach into the book and shake them, but all of those characters are like onions. They have so many layers to them. It's crazy. Like, check trigger warnings beforehand, but that one, oh my god. See, I've had so many questions for my favorite books of the year, which makes this really hard. Best way to build your dream book library. I think, so I'm somebody who, when I got back into reading, I was over consuming. I was buying a lot of books and not reading them. And now I have not a whole library. I don't ever want to own 1,000 books. That's just, in my opinion, that's a lot. Overwhelming. Right now that the house we're in, I've already kind of outgrown my little library room. But I think if I were to go back in and start buying books again, I would probably be a little bit more conscious about it. I would definitely start with like half-price books, Pango books, which you can buy books online that people are selling. The library, obviously, you want to make your own library. There's like, my public library has a store in it that literally sells used books for super cheap. So I would start there, but obviously if there's books that you just have to have, put them on your birthday wish list. I have my own, like, I have a regular Amazon wish list and then I have a book wish list. And when people ask me what I want for my birthday or Christmas or just because, I send them those lists. And most of the time, I'll get those books. So, but I think also just really thinking about books that are going to bring you happiness. I mean, you guys know I went through all my bookshelves and I dehauled a lot of books. I think over 40 of books that I was just never going to read or books that just did not bring me joy. Now, for the most part, all of my books bring me joy. There are still some books that I haven't read and I'm still kind of questioning, but only to say, if you're building your dream library, take it slow. You don't have to get them all at once. Check out thrift stores, half-price books, your local library if they have library sales, even your friends, like, Facebook Marketplace. There's so many different ways to get your books without having to pay full price for them. But if you have to, that's okay. Just be smart about it because you don't want to be overwhelmed with all your books. Your books should bring you happiness, not feeling like you're drowning. What started your love of reading? My grandpa used to take me to the mall that used to have this bookstore in there, and he used to buy me a book, or we'd go to Half Price or the libraries, and he was the one person who would always read to me, and I think that's maybe why I like reading so much. Not that my siblings don't like reading, but I think I like it more, and I think because my grandpa took so much time with me and like showing me the world of reading, that I definitely think that that is where it stemmed. And then obviously when I got to college, I stopped reading. And then COVID happened and I ended up losing my grandfather. Not to COVID, but I lost him during COVID. And I think I really needed an escapism. And reading just really came back to me in that way. So I feel like even now, like my grandpa has still been the main reason why I keep reading, because he was, started me. He left, and I had to, and that's like my connection to him, not to get sappy or emotional. 2024 favorite trip. This year, we didn't travel as much as we usually do, but our two big trips were for my best friend. She got married this year. I would probably say that my favorite of those two trips was actually going to California. We went to Seattle for her bachelorette, and that was so much fun. But we went to the Redwoods in California for her and her husband to get married. I married them, no big deal. And I was her maid of honor, but that was probably my favorite trip of the year. Me and my best friend have been besties since we were sophomores in high school. So just seeing her, get married. And the Redwoods, if you have never been to the Redwoods National Park, oh my God. I can't even remember the small town we stayed in. It was beautiful. It was like out of like just the West Coast, but like the Pacific Northwest is like, it's not even real. Like coming from Texas and seeing those trees that were ginormous, I felt like I was in Jurassic Park because those trees were ginormous. And we went to, my partner and I, it was a destination wedding, but me and my partner still did a lot of stuff on our own. And we went to this place called the Tree of Mystery. And it was so cool because it was like a park within the Redwoods, and they made like, what's it called? Like bridges to walk across, and you're like like redwood trees are huge and they're like super tall. You're in there. And I learned and you're on the bridge just looking at everything. And typically I'm a huge chicken when it comes to heights, but that was like, you just have to. And then, you learn a lot about Paul Bunyan. He's apparently very big in the Redwoods, but that was definitely my favorite trip of 2024. What's your favorite reading snack? I will literally eat anything. I do not discriminate about what's going into my mouth while I'm reading. You know what I mean? I read what I eat, like dinner. Like I have my Kindle on my stand and I'm there reading. But if I had to pick like a favorite snack, I love sipping on my matcha while reading, and then I love popcorn. Hate how it gets in your teeth, but if you want a little spicy popcorn, I love the everything but the elote seasoning from Trader Joe's. That on your popcorn and a Poppy, perfection. And it's kind of healthy depending on how much seasoning you put on your stuff, but that's probably my favorite reading snack. Or making a little charcuterie board. I love me a little charcuterie board, so depends on the mood. Okay, this or that, fantasy or thriller. Those are my top two favorite genres. Right now, in this moment, right now, I would probably pick fantasy. I but the thing is I have not picked up a fantasy that I haven't this year. That's a lie. No, it's not. That is a lie. Because I read the Powerless series this year. But fantasy is just like the ultimate escapism. As long as you don't ask me to use my brain too much, I would probably pick fantasy. Thrillers, I love thrillers too, but if it's a this or that, definitely fantasy. Seasonal reads or random. I'm a random read. I haven't done, it's Christmas right now. I don't know if you can see, I don't know where it's at. It's on this side. It's on this side. Can you see it? My Christmas tree. It's focused on me so you can't see it. Sorry, Monty. I'm a random read. I really don't even, I love Halloween, but I think because I read horror. Every time I say that, it sounds like something else. But I just read whatever. And that goes into the next this or that. Planned read or mood reader. I'm a mood reader. There's no argument about it. It's painfully obvious. I wish I could stick to a TBR. The only time I stick to TBR is for book club books. And even then, I put those off so bad sometimes. Did you change your book boyfriend or girlfriend at all from one you'd previously read? I don't think I ever changed them. I think I just add more to the lineup. Peyton Gray and Kai Azer? I don't know, but the female main character and one of the male main characters from the Powerless trilogy. On my knees. Oh my god. Love them. Especially the audiobooks. Listening to Kai talk, Xaden, I'm sorry. Xaden and Reese. But that's just, I have a type, allegedly. So I don't think they change because I will always love all of them. They just get added to my lineup. But I think those are my two from this year. And Julian Hates from Magnolia Parks. I'm not a BJ girl. I'm sorry. Magnolia deserves to be with someone who, never mind. We're not going to get into that. But I'm definitely a Julian Hates girl, too. Through and through. I've read, right now, I think I'm at 60 books, so bear with me because sometimes I forget even what I've read. So let's see if there's any other people. No. Those are my book boyfriends and girlfriend. Hayden, Julian. You know what? Daisy hates too. We're just going to add on. They're siblings, but, add it to the list. Top 2024 Eras Tour moments. My brain is what happened this year and what happened last year? Because I was looking at these questions and I was going to say the 1989 release, but that happened last year, didn't it? Yeah, that was last year. So, and I don't want to be basic and say, Achilles, stop. I was going to say the 1989 release. Favorite Eras Tour moment. Honestly, as basic as it is, and everybody else might say it, Travis Kelce getting on stage. Because I remember my best friend Mallory was visiting from Houston, and what were we doing? I think we were just eating. I think it was our other best friend's birthday, so we were eating before we were going to go eat with her because that's what you do. When your best friend is here from out of town, your long distance best friend, you eat all the food she's missed from here. So that's what we were doing. And she said, Travis Kelce is on stage. And I said, What? And that was also the same day that Taylor sang Us with Gracie Abrams. That was just chef's kiss. Anytime Taylor brought out Gracie Abrams was just know I was crying and screaming and throwing up somewhere. Whatever time it may have been. Because, yes. But that was probably my favorite Eras Tour moment. And I'm still second guessing myself and saying, was it this year? But it was. It was. If you could only read one genre for the rest of your life, what would you pick and why? I would probably say fantasy, because there's just so many I feel like there's so many different types of fantasy that you can't get tired of it. Like YA, dark fantasy, romantasy, high stakes, dystopian, trials. I would definitely probably say fantasy. I would consider thriller, but I think sometimes thrillers can get tiring. And romance, definitely. I could not do romance for the rest of my life. I'm sorry. Sue me. I can't. Favorite moments from this year. I got my driver's license this year. I'm 32 and I got my driver's license. I got it a week before my birthday, and it was probably the biggest accomplishment that I've had in a while since probably getting my house. So that was super cool. I can go wherever I want now. I don't get on the highway yet, but one day maybe. And then obviously my best friend getting married. We already talked about that. Traveling to Seattle with my two best friends for the first time ever. Like, that was the first time us three had ever, like, flown together and done all that stuff. So now we're going to make it a yearly thing. We're supposed to decide where we're going this year, like, this month, where we're going to go next year. But I'm kind of leaning on, I'm going to bring up New York so we can go see Broadway. So we can go see Wicked on Broadway. And then another favorite moment of this year, honestly, I had a fat lineup for concerts. I may not have gotten to see Taylor Swift again this past year, but I saw Olivia Rodrigo, Gracie Abrams, and then my favorite was Noah Kahan. If you have not seen Noah Kahan in concert, it was such a last minute thing. We weren't going to do it because tickets, it was only resale, and I hate buying resale tickets. So I literally, the day before the concert, bought our tickets. They were still a lot, but they weren't like, was not what they were, because I was waiting until the very last minute to get them, and I do not regret the money that we spent. And I would also probably say my book retreat this year was super good and super fun, because once again, my best friend comes in from Houston, and she brought her dog this year, and it was just, we had the perfect pool. It was so hot, but I was in that pool all day. But those are probably my favorite moments. What has been the read that you cannot stop thinking about and lives rent-free in your mind? We'll do from this year, because literally my first thought is always Bunny. That book lives in my brain forever. Lives rent-free in my mind would definitely, most likely, be the Powerless trilogy, the 2 books in the novella. I am saving, what did they say, Wicked? I'm saving space for Fearless to come out. That series has just lived in my brain rent-free, and I've been pushing my book club to read their books, the next books already, and they're like, no, we want to wait till closer to the release date. And I'm like, please, somebody read this book. I need somebody to talk to about it. But I just love that book and that series so much. When is a perfect time to DNF a book? Whenever you want. Me personally, try to read at least 100 pages, because I have ADHD and not every book is going to just grab me by, my attention immediately. There are books that do, and thank God, but there are some books that will take a little bit. But overall, I think that whenever you feel like it, it could literally be the first page and you see a name you don't like, DNF it. There are so many books in this world to read. We should not be reading books that are not bringing us joy. That's just plain and simple. If you have to finish books, okay, cool, but it's okay to DNF whenever you want. But me personally is 100 pages. Do you reread books? I wish I could say I reread books. I can do audiobooks again, but I usually don't reread books. I know some people do and they love it and everything. I would love to reread the Magnolia Park series maybe in a year or two to annotate it because I didn't when I went through the series, but I also don't like messing up those spines on those books are so easy to mess up that it's ridiculous. So, yeah. What's the most beautiful cover you read this year? Oh my gosh. That's a good question. Once again, let's see all the books that I've read this year. My instinct is saying the Magnolia Park series, but we're not going to because everybody knows the original covers are the most beautiful ever. But if I had to pick something that's not that, I would say When the Moon Hatched. That cover is beautiful. That's all I'll say about that book because it was 700 pages of what? Did you complete any book series this year? Yes and no. I started a lot of series this year, or I feel like I just didn't get to books that I was supposed to read this year because I did want to finish like the Throne of Glass series this year. But I am caught up with obviously the Magnolia Park series and the Powerless series. That's it. And like the Phantasma duology that's gonna come out. I finally finished Phantasma. How has your reading taste changed this year? I think I don't know. Am I the same boring girl that was here last year? No, I think I am open a little bit more to different types of romance books. I don't like anything wild. I mean, I love dark romance. That's as wild as I'll get. But I think I've gotten a little heavier on the fantasy era, even though like I look at my reading stuff and I do read a lot of romance, but that's because I have a lot of romance books in my shelves. But I would definitely say fantasy has really taken over me reading a lot of like thrillers and stuff. I've probably read a lot more than I have in the previous years. Which book gave you the strongest emotional reaction this year? My Dark Vanessa. That book is so good, and that is one that I will heavily say you need to check every single trigger warning. That book is not for everybody, but I personally think that stories like that need to be shared and they need to be told because that book was wow. What's a book that lived up to the hype for you? Funny Story. I love that book. Funny Story and Happy Place. Those are probably my top two Emily Henry books. And then a book that didn't meet your expectations. I would say The Last One at the Wedding. And then the what is that book called? A Thousand Broken Pieces by Tilly Cole. Those two, I don't know. I think I just loved A Thousand Boy Kisses so much that it wasn't that A Thousand Broken Pieces was a bad book, but I don't really think it was necessary. I still enjoyed it. I gave it a four stars, but I don't think it was like necessary, you know? Which book surprised you, good or bad? I would probably say We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kuhler. Oh my god, that book, I think that one also still lives rent free in my mind because I don't even know that I can't. That book leaves me speechless. If you want a spooky book that's gonna have you questioning everything, We Used to Live Here. I can't tell you how long my book club and I talked about that book because there's so many theories, and the way it ends, it's crazy. What's a genre that you got more into this year? I would definitely say poetry. I read a couple of poetry books this year that they're very simple like poems. It's not like I'm reading William Shakespeare, but they were good. 5 stars. It was I read, well, not all of them were good. Pillow Thoughts, not good. My friend Katie put out her first volume of her book of poems, and that's called My Story and Me. And that cover is just, first of all, beautiful. Katie is also just like godsend, literally one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet, and her poetry just really hit me like, wow. That was probably one of my favorite that goes up there in my opinion with Ruby Cars, like for a book that, or a book of poems that has changed me, Katie's books, and that I know her too, like, is crazy. And going into that, one genre I want to explore a little bit more next year is nonfiction, but not like self-help books. Like right now I'm reading the third Gilmore Girl, Kelly Bishop. I think I could do more memoirs if the like memoir is like doing an audiobook or is reading the audiobook. I prefer to do them in audio because it sounds like I'm just listening to like a podcast or something, but that's what I would do. I want to do more memoirs. If you could reread one book for the first time, which one would it be? This year, my brain just automatically goes to Magnolia Park series. I would love to reread those again for the first time, just so I can annotate them and like, oh my god, that just, yeah. What's one reading habit you want to change or improve in 2025? Just picking my reads for me and not just reading because I have to read them. I think that sometimes doing what I do here on YouTube and here and on Instagram, sometimes I feel like it's a job and I wish it was my full-time job, but we're not there yet. But just picking the reads for me and DNFing when I need to DNF, not like because, you know, if I get sent an arc, I feel like I have to finish the book because they sent it to me, and no, girl, DNF that book. And then the last question I'm gonna give with you guys, because my camera's dying and it was fully charged, wonderful. If you could give one book as a gift to everyone, what would it be? And from this year? That's a good question. Ooh, I can't pick one. I usually could do fiction if I'm giving something to everyone, and I would be Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow, and Yellowface. There's a reason those books are so highly, like, rated, because they're just so good. Yellowface, I did an audiobook, and I did both of them in audiobook, and those are books that I would love to see made into movies, so those are gifts that I would give everybody, if they would read, because that would be awesome. Well, that's all the questions I have for you guys. I promise I feel like y'all are already picking up what I'm putting down on what my favorite reads were for 2024, but those videos are coming soon and I'm super excited. I'm super excited for the new year, and there are so many books coming out next year that I'm like, I get to finish the Powerless trilogy and new Onyx Storm, but that's besides the point. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Athena just ran down here like a maniac. As always, you know, like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube things. Follow me over on Instagram. That would mean the world to me. Let me know what your favorite book of was this year. I want to know. Maybe we have similar books because we're going to get into that. So thank you guys so much for hanging. I hope you'll have a wonderful day.